She spent over 20 years as a successful realtor and realtor coach, recipient of over 40 sales, leadership, and literary awards from the legendary Music Row in Nashville. This is The Power of Real Estate with Michelle Moore.
All right, and welcome to The Power of Real Estate. I got to tell you, I'm so excited about today's show. We got attorney Tish Baldwin in the house. Hey, Tish.
Howdy, howdy.
How you doing, girl?
Good. How are you, sweetie?
I'm doing great. I am doing great. All right, so we got attorney Tish Baldwin. She's going to be sharing a couple of different things. The first thing she's going to be sharing, though, is an attorney joke. But later, we're going to be talking about 3 things a realtor can do to ensure a smooth closing. And I cannot wait to hear your tips. This is talking my talk. You know,
Absolutely.
And by the way, I love a good list.
Yes, you do.
We all know that. All right. So, but first, before we get into the 3 things that a realtor can do to ensure a smooth closing, the one thing we like best, closes.
Absolutely.
Before we do that, we're going to talk about your attorney joke because attorney Tish Baldwin's in the house. We got to have an attorney joke.
Absolutely. I got to make fun of myself somehow.
That's right. Yeah. Now, look, it wouldn't be right if I was telling a joke, but about realtors or blondes. That would work too.
Blonde realtor jokes would work.
Blonde realtor jokes. Okay, I'm gonna get you one, Jimmy. I'm gonna get you one. One of these days, I'm gonna get you. It's gonna be a trip to the moon.
You're going to be passing out some W&Ws here in a little bit. I mean, M&Ms.
That hurt. That hurt, Jimmy. That hurt.
Truth usually does.
I'm getting killed on my own show. This is not right.
Oh, we're just having fun.
All right, attorney Tish Baldwin, what you got, girl? Attorney joke for the day.
Settle down, people. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the joke, the whole joke, and nothing but the joke?
Guess so.
Then make us laugh.
What do you call 25 attorneys jumping out of an airplane?
Wind tunnel.
A good idea?
A good idea. That's good. No, I call them skeet.
There you go.
Only Tish. Only Tish can make an attorney joke funny and feel so right.
It does feel good to do that.
That's one of the more brutal ones you've told, too.
I know. I gotta say that was a good one. I had a good guess.
Yeah.
Wind tunnel.
Yeah.
There was a blonde joke that somehow had something to do with that. I don't remember, but that's where I got that from. I thought maybe it's a wind tunnel.
I think you should go with that one. I like it.
All right. Well, hey, by the way, before we get into Tish's topic today, I want to make sure that you know Selling Simplified, my award-winning book, Selling Simplified, fantastic book. If you don't already have a copy, you got to make sure you do. You can go to realestatecoachingsimplified.com, and we're giving the book away. We'll ship it to you. The only thing you have to do is pay the $4.95 for shipping and handling. We'll be more than happy to send it to you. We hope that it blesses you and your business. Make sure, and personally, just personally and professionally. So make sure that you go to, again, realestatecoachingsimplified.com and get your copy.
Now, this is designed for realtors, correct?
Yes.
But it is selling simplified, so it would work for any salesperson, right?
It's funny you asked me that, Jimmy, because through the years, it's been out for about 4.5 years now and still doing, in fact, I say it's actually picking up speed. It just keeps growing and growing. But with the following, I've sold it to just as many people that are not in the real estate business as those that are. It's multi-level marketing, anything. In fact, I just had a mortgage lender buy it the other day. It's amazing to me how many people say, could this help me? And really, almost every single fast tip in the book, it's 55 fast tips to jumpstart your real estate business. It's applicable really to almost any industry ever. And just about every profession that I can think of we all sell. We're all selling something.
Do I get a producer discount? Or are you going to charge me more? Like a 10% upcharge.
After that whole W&W's thing, I'm thinking, you can forget the free book, buddy.
No, I was going to pay for it.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it, all right.
I'll give you some. I'll give you some free W&Ws.
I oughta. No, but anyways, okay. So attorney Tish Baldwin's here in the house with us. Now we're going to get into 3 things a realtor can do to ensure a smooth closing. All right. So attorney Tish Baldwin, what's number 1?
Number 1 starts at the very beginning, which is really the backbone and the core to the whole transaction to make sure that it starts off on a good note and ends in a good note, which means a smooth closing. Which what I mean by that is, as an agent, first off, you need to know your contract in and out. It doesn't matter if you have been closing real estate for 30 years. It's always a good idea to read the contract, at least if you're an experienced agent, is to read that contract at least maybe twice a year. just to make sure you've gotten all the jargon, make sure you understand it completely, make sure you know what's in there. Plus, there's changes and amendments done by the board all the time in regard to the language. They have, changes and amendments, things like that. But even as an experienced agent, if you know that contract inside and out, then you're already on good footing. If you're a new agent, then you need to read it until you do understand it, because it's long, it's lengthy. It's got a lot of great information in there. It's got a lot of default language in there that is great because it's already in there. It talks about a lot of different things of who pays for this, who pays for that. It gives dates and timelines and time frames and deadlines to get things done. It's just really, really good because that's the core and the center of the whole transaction is knowing your contract in order to do the second part, which is completing it correctly. Man, if I could count how many, let's just say pennies. Let's just count the pennies of how many times we get contracts. Been doing this a long time, of how many times we get contracts in the door that is not fully complete, that doesn't have all the blanks entered, that doesn't have all the things marked, that doesn't have all the deadlines in there, that doesn't have names in there, for heaven's sakes, or a complete property address, who pays for what, who won't pay for this, the miscellaneous parts, if there's something in particular that the buyer wanted or the seller was willing to give and it's not in there, then it really destroys the whole crux of what we call the meeting of the minds, to make sure that the buyer and the seller are on the same page, make sure both agents are on the same page as to what expectations are, what the liabilities are, who's supposed to do what, and the time frames to make sure, guess what, the closing goes smoothly. So first, know your contract. Read that contract. Even if you're an experienced agent, read it, know it, live it, make sure you understand. If you have questions, you can talk to your broker, you can talk to an attorney, because a lot of times the attorneys at the board write those contracts.
Because you never know when somebody might stick the firstborn child clause in there.
You just never know. That's right. They may put a piece of furniture in there you don't want to give up.
Your client's going to go, really? Our firstborn? Unless he's on his way to college, and then you can have him.
So the first one is know the contract, and the second one is complete the contract.
Yes, know it, complete
So we're talking about 3 things a realtor can do to ensure smooth closing. So the first one is know what it says, and then the second one is make sure all those blanks are filled in and completed. So that way, I always say, because what happens then is if it's not, then there are surprises. And I always say that, that some surprises are not good. And, people go, oh, a surprise. Some surprises are good, and most are, you'd like to think, but some are not. And so these are going to be, almost always leads to not a good surprise.
That's exactly right. And a lot of times that can be disastrous. May not be up front, but eventually it will in the end. And when you get closer to the closing is when it gets, I guess, more damaging to the parties if there are misunderstandings or it's not written concise, clear, and it's not complete. I tell people that's the 3 C's when you're actually filling out a contract. Make sure it's clear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't mean legible's good, but I mean clear as in language.
Yes.
Concise. Make sure that there is language in there if it's something in particular, because a lot of times buyers and sellers will ask for something that's kind of out of the norm. That's where you put it in the miscellaneous section. And if you're not clear and concise as to the meaning of what that is, and there's multiple interpretations possibly to what that means, that could be damaging and hurtful in the long run when there's an argument at the end of the day, sometimes the day of closing, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, and so just as specific as you can be.
Yes.
And so it's not, leave all that they got, it's leave all 5 that there are.
Right.
That kind of thing. And so, all right, so we're here in the studio with Attorney Tish Baldwin. We're talking about 3 things a realtor can do to ensure smooth closing. We've already covered the first 2, and now she's going to tell us what's number 3, Attorney Tish Baldwin.
Number 3. This is more geared toward when you list a property. And I do this because this can be another thing that can come into effect later on, in the middle, in between, or toward the end. If you are listing a property and you know your contract and you've completed your contract, in your conversation with your seller, and you're talking with them, and in your conversations you feel like, I better do a title search. They've had some hardships. Maybe there's some judgments out there that we might need to be looking at that may, depending on your conversation.
Sure.
There may be some tax liens out there that we, as a title company, we need to make sure that we clear those up and get payoffs that the seller may not even know that attaches to the property, which is cause for another show. And if you say, well, my mom owned this property, now she's deceased. I'm actually her son selling the property. well, that's a red flag. We need to make sure. So, and a lot of times, you need to make sure that the title is in good shape before or when you list it, and give the heads up to the title company saying, okay, John Doe is selling the property, but that's the heir of Gladys Doe. So then that tells the title company, okay, we've got some homework to do. Mm-hmm. We've got to ask questions about if there's a will, if there is not a will, who's the heirs, who's living, who's deceased. Do they have a spouse? Are they living or deceased? Are they on TennCare? Lots of different things, or any type of a lien like that. Any type of things like that it'll take the title company extra time to make sure, because if you have a closing date on your contract and you got to meet that, then the expectation for the title company, which is what I do, I've got to start now. We had one not too long ago where two people owned the property. They owned it as husband and wife. The husband died. Of course, it automatically according to our state law, automatically went to the wife. And then she died. Well, then all of a sudden, we had liens and we had mortgages and we had unexpected things. And she had a common name. So that always comes up too. We have to clear if it's her or if it's not. Plus, there were 3 heirs and they were fighting. Everything.
Wow.
And one could be there, the other 2 couldn't, and they didn't trust the other one. And that took a long time. Plus, there was a probate attorney involved. And guess what? They didn't do exactly what they were supposed to do in that time frame, which we almost had to extend the closing, which would have been hurtful to the buyers because they were getting out of their lease on their apartment. So know your people. Ask the questions. If you hear or think there might be a question as to who owns the property. How many acres? If it's acreage, how many acres are we really dealing with? If you're thinking about, well, they've had some hardship, maybe we need to see if there's any judgments or extra mortgages or problems, or if it's close to foreclosure. A lot of different things. And as a title person, I can take a look at that title search and take a look and give you a report of what I see, which will help us answer questions, fill in the blanks, get things in line in order for the closing to go smoothly.
All right, that's so great. Attorney Tish Baldwin covering 3 things a realtor can do to ensure a smooth closing. And of course, when I'm sure it was probably hard just getting it down to 3.
Yeah, a lot more.
That's another topic that we might just cover again and have completely different 3 different things that you can do. But these are fantastic. Attorney Tish Baldwin, thanks so much for coming into the studio today and sharing with our listeners. And if you got any real estate related questions, you can always email them to me. You can email them to me at Michelle, Michelle, 2 L's in there, at realestatecoachingsimplified.com, or of course Michelle at NashvilleMichelle.com. They both come straight to me. And by the way, if you haven't heard, there's a brand new national realtor designation. It's called the RESP realtor designation. RESP stands for Real Estate Selling Professional. I am the person who actually created it, and I am also the author of it, and so I wrote it. I am an award-winning author, and so I'm excited about this course. We've already booked for 9 dates already, and we just announced the opening less than 3 weeks ago, so the launch of it, and so we're excited about it. And cool. So we're taking it throughout the country. But if you're wanting to know if it's available in your area and when, or you want to let me know that you want it to be available in your area, you can always reach out to me by email, or you can go to realestatecoachingsimplified.com and check it all out. Also, make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or through iHeartRadio. And we will see you next week on The Power of Real Estate with Michelle Moore.
Realtors, if you're ready to jumpstart your business, Michelle has your realtor coaching covered at realestatecoachingsimplified.com. Everything from coaching online teachings to in-person programs. Join us next time for The Power of Real Estate with Michelle Moore.